Hey Damien, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I just survived Hurricane Ian, so I'm kind of in relief right now.
Oh, thank God, man. Glad to hear it. Cheers.
Yeah, I know. We had like no power yesterday. I'm here at my folks' house, so we're they got power back. So I'm like, all right, I'm coming over.
Good, good.
So I am excited to talk to you about Terrifier 2. I watched it last weekend, and I was completely blown away with it. Oh my God, like you totally outdid yourself with this one. I love the first one, but the second one, you just up the ante and then some.
Oh, wow. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So how did it feel to come back to this property, and how did you come up with all these wonderful ideas for this one?
It was exciting, man. It was exciting and it was very challenging for sure because I've been saying, with Terrifier 1, I feel like we got into the club. The bouncer kind of said, "All right, come in. You can get in there." And now we're in, and it's like, well, there's the dance floor. It's like, get on the dance floor and show me what you're made of. That's what I felt Terrifier 2 was. And this was like my chance. This was my shot to sort of swing for the fences and prove that maybe art is worthy to be in the horror community. And the way some people already embrace him.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, so I wanted it to be bigger. I wanted it to be much bigger. I wanted everything people loved from the first one. I wanted to carry over, but now I wanted it to have a much more interesting, intricate story and more fleshed out three-dimensional characters, especially our heroes, that you can get behind and be on their journey now. Especially the Sienna character played by Lauren Lavera. This is essentially more her movie than it is Art the Clown's movie. So this was my chance to show what I can do with a hero. So that was exciting.
yeah. I talked with David Wednesday night, and he said he had such a blast with it, and yeah. We both agree. We both have like the same favorite kill scene, the bedroom kill.
Yeah.
And he brought up some very interesting points. How one of the kills was based on Jack the Ripper. I mean, how did you did you research all this for like the kills? Like, how did you do all this?
Yeah, no, I wasn't purposely going out of my way. I was just one day I was in Barnes and Noble looking through the crime section or whatever, and I saw this book about Jack the Ripper, and I'm flipping through the pages, and then I see an actual photo of one of his victims, and it's a woman mutilated on a bed, so horribly mutilated that all you really see are bone and meat, and you can't even tell it's a person anymore. And I was like, oh my God, and that's real. So that's absolutely horrifying. So getting in the mind of Art the Clown, and I've said this before, when I write Art the Clown, I say, imagine if Satan and Jack the Ripper had a kid, and what would that person do to one of its victims? And now I had an actual photograph of one of Jack the Ripper's victims. So I said, listen, we'll just take that photo and reverse engineer it, and I'll show how that person ended up in that state. And that was it. It starts there, and then it becomes, well, what are the pieces of that puzzle? What is he doing to this character? Skinning them, cutting their limbs off, things like that. So you do have to go to some dark places when you're writing for the sadistic part of Art the Clown.
Yeah. Yeah. How did it feel to reunite with David on this one? Because he had a total blast.
Yeah. Listen, Dave and I have been virtually inseparable since Terrifier 1. I mean, I see him all the time because we do all these conventions together, and we get invited to these cons to do photo ops. So I'm always putting him in makeup, and I feel like I'm never away from Art the Clown for too long. So it's just very natural to jump right back into it with him. I say Art the Clown is I was the most secure going into part 2 with Art the Clown. I knew Dave was going to bring his A game. I'm secure with the way I write the character, his sense of humor, the kill scenes. It was all the other elements that I was introducing in this movie that were so different from Terrifier 1, like the big fantasy element, the supernatural element, all the mystical stuff. So that was where I felt I was really taking a risk. But it's fun, man. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. It's very challenging, but rewarding when it works.
Yes, and you mentioned Lauren, and I gotta tell you, man, she whooped some major butt in this one. Like she threw down, and that was the one when I saw the trailer, and I knew who she was. I heard about her. I'm like, this is the one thing I've been waiting for, her to throw down with Art the Clown. I gotta see what this is like. And what was that? What was shooting that like? Which fight scene between them like?
Yeah, intense and a lot of work. That was one of the things I was most excited for with this movie. I was most excited for Lauren's character, the Sienna character, because you know, you would think I just love villains and monsters, and because the first Terrifier is just a showcase basically for Art the Clown as a villain doing his thing. But I love heroes so much, and I love female heroes. One of my favorite characters of all time is, well, I have so many, but I mean Ripley, and not just females, just of all time. Ripley from Aliens is one of my favorite characters, and I really would go back to study that character and see, well, what makes that character work? She's such a vulnerable, courageous, like just well fleshed out character. Might be one of the greatest characters, is one of the greatest characters ever written. So, I mean, to show that sort of transcendence from Sienna being this sort of frightened girl, you know, your everyday average girl, and then just showing her sort of transcend into this larger than life mythic hero was very fun. That was exciting. And just seeing them finally throw down, her in her costume fighting Art the Clown, was, you know, those are the moments where you sort of, all the pressures leave and you're watching the monitor and you go, this is cool, we're making something awesome. So it was exciting.
That's awesome. How long did shooting take, and what did you face challenge-wise? I know you took like a couple years to get this off the ground. You know, we had COVID, and then, you know, then all this other stuff happened, and then finally you finally unleashed this beast, as I'm calling it, because yeah, this is my favorite horror film of the year. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Thank you, man. That means so much, dude. Tons of challenges. It was nothing but challenges. And look, every movie is just, that's all it is. It's just challenges. It's nothing ever runs smooth. It's like Murphy's Law. Anything that could possibly go wrong is gonna go wrong. So one of the big things that kicked us off on the wrong foot was, I knew this was the most ambitious thing I ever wrote, and I always do all the special effects, and I knew there's no way I can do all these special effects. So for the first time, I was gonna hire another team to come in and do about 40% of the makeup effects for me. Mm-hmm. And we had this team, they came in, they were ready to go, but we couldn't come to terms on a budget. And then sure enough, like a month and a half before we started shooting, they bailed out without building anything. And I was like, oh my God, like what are we possibly gonna do? And my producer said, look, we just gotta jump in and start shooting this thing, and we'll figure it out as we go. Wow. So we'd have to shoot scenes leading up to a kill scene, and then we'd have to stop production for like a week or 2 weeks, and then me and my producer, acting as my makeup effects assistant, would go and build all of the effects for that upcoming shoot. And and that's one of the reasons why this movie took forever. We had such a small crew. We built everything ourselves. I mean, we built all the sets, you know, just everything you could possibly imagine. We built it. We didn't have teams come in to do this. It was like a core group of like 7 to 12 people in our entire crew that did everything.
That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Even though it's time consuming, that is impressive.
Yeah,
it just shows dedication. That just shows the dedication you bring to this.
Total dedication, and the people that I did have on my team were just the most passionate, talented, and dedicated people, and they really believed in me. You know, I told them this was going to take 3.5 months, and it took that, you know, over 2 years, and they didn't really complain or, you know, get disheartened. They just believed in what we were making, and everything we were shooting just looked so good that they were really excited about being a part of it. And it got to the point where we just wanted to keep one-upping ourselves and making it better and making it the best thing that it could be. So if I wasn't surrounded by those people, this would have never happened. So I was lucky enough to be around a lot of great, talented people.
And all right, so one question I have to ask: you had some cameos from some pretty cool people, Chris Jericho, Felissa Rose. What was it like for them to come on board on this one? I think Felissa was in the first one, if I remember right. But here she is.
No, Felissa wasn't in the second one, the first one. But yeah, Felissa, we met at horror conventions, and immediately she makes you feel like you've known her for your entire life. She's the most genuinely sweet person you'll ever meet. Have you ever met her before?
Yeah, I interviewed her a few years ago, and you're exactly how she described it. Like she came, and then I remember telling her, I was like, my 10-year-old just watched Sleepaway Camp, and it's like her favorite horror film, and she was like, that is so great to hear, and I was like, oh my gosh, and
I mean, that's genuinely her. That's genuinely. So it was just a no-brainer. I wish she could have had a bigger part, but I knew I had to get her in somewhere. But that one day she came into film was like she just lit up the fucking set, and her energy was so high, and everybody was making everybody laugh, and just it's so important. It goes a long way because a lot of times film sets are very stressful and it's not a good time. It's very boring. It's slow. People are waiting on the director. What are we doing? We got to go. The clock is ticking. But when she comes in, it's just everybody. It's like you're having a party. So that was great. And Chris Jericho just turned out to be a huge fan of Terrifier. One of his band members, showed him a scene because they knew that Chris was a huge horror fan. And on their tour bus, he was like, you got to see this movie Terrifier, this killer clown thing, and you have to see this one hacksaw scene. And when he saw
I know what scene you're talking about. That was my favorite. My favorite kill in the movie. Yet I was a little disappointed. I'm a huge, I like Catherine Corcoran from Return to Nukem High, and when I saw her death scene in that, I'm just like, that's just heartbreaking. Still one of the best death in the movie, in my opinion, but still, like, I was like, I'm heartbroken now just to see that.
Yeah. But I mean, he became a fan ever since then. And then he was talking about us on his podcast, Talk is Jericho. And then eventually he met David Howard Thorne at a convention, and I got in touch with him, and he said, dude, if you ever make another one, I would love to be a part of it. So I specifically wrote him a part, and he was gracious enough to come down and do it. And he's such a fucking cool guy and a genuinely nice person. So he's the man. I'm grateful to be surrounded by these people. It really is.
Well, I did ask David, are we going to see Art return in Terrifier 3? And he told me flat out he wants to fight Chris Jericho in the next one. He told me that the other night. He's like, I want to fight. I got to fight Chris Jericho, so we got to have a third one.
Well, he's lucky it's only taking place on camera. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, what I did notice in one of the credits, in loving memory of Stefan Carl.
Right.
And I know that name. I know him like, I was my kids and I were huge Lazy Town fans. So so.
Well, that's specifically.
What was it like? How did he like? How did you get to know him and and everything?
I never got to meet him. That specifically, that in loving memory is dedicated to Stefan from Dave, because Dave was Stefan Carl's understudy when they toured with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And Dave, he was really inspirational, and Dave took a lot of those mannerisms and all of his acting abilities from Stefan. So I
kind of noticed that the way because if you watch Lazy Town, if you watch Robbie Rotten, the way he that's like Art the Clown. It's like a horror version of Robbie Rotten. Oh my gosh!
There you go.
I watched the credits and I saw his name. I'm like, I gotta ask like someone about that. I want to. So I figured I asked you because maybe you knew him, but now knowing it was Dave, I should ask him that.
Yeah, I would say that's Dave's biggest inspiration. He brings that up at every convention. So.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, my 16-year-old, my oldest, she saw the first Terrifier Wednesday night, and I asked her, "What'd you think of it?" Because she's like, "That is one of the best horror movies I've ever watched."
Really?
Like, she's like, she loves the gore stuff, and she's like, "Holy crap!" She goes, "Dad, I need to see the second one like as soon as possible."
Oh,
wow. I was like, "Oh my god, and I told her this with David sitting. I go, David, by the way, my daughter's sitting next to me, and she saw the first one today, and she said it was one of the best horror movies she's ever watched." He's like, "Are you really?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like,
"That means a lot, man." She's got good taste, first of all.
Yeah. I'll tell her you said that.
Well, I hope you guys get to see it in the theater.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on screen, but I definitely want to see it on the big screen. That's going to be even more mind blowing.
Yeah, it's cool to see with an audience, man. I just finally got to see it at Fantastic Fest with an audience for the first time, and that was pretty intense. Yeah. I mean, big reactions from the audience. So
are we safe to say you're going to develop the third one soon, and you got some ideas thrown around for the third one?
Yeah, man. I already basically have an entire outline for part 3, so I know where it's
You
going.
waste any time. No, you're all ready to go.
I have a lot. There's a lot more to do with art for sure. For sure.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So Terrifier 2 is coming October 6th in select theaters. And I'm telling you guys, I spoke with David already, and I gotta tell you, man, this is like my favorite horror film of the year. Right now, it's just you really upped the ante with this one, and then some. I'd say you outdid yourself with Terrifier 2. Damien, I can't thank you enough, man. I cannot wait to see more of your stuff. I think we definitely need to keep in touch when this all goes down. So I can't wait for more of this to happen.
Oh, thank you, buddy. That means a lot, man. This was fun. I really appreciate your time, dude.
All right. Well, I hope you take care, and we'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely. Take care, buddy.